Hey everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to Lucid's Tournament Game 7, where we are playing Helheim. It's 37 turns into this, and I'm still having trouble with that intro. Let's jump into it. Okay then, so we have received a death basket from Marverni. Okay, I've waxed poetic about my opinions on death baskets. I believe them to be a part of the game. I don't prefer to receive them, right? Because I think it throws that kind of like shade there. But at the same time, they're much akin to an alliance or trade agreements or just preferential treatment towards one player or the other, or bias against one nation or the other, right? They are a part of the game in which one player can influence another player for ill or for good, right? When you get a death basket, that's a player influencing you positively. When you don't, and someone else does, that's a negative influence. But that's much the same as someone refusing to trade with you or someone trading with your enemies. While it's not my preference, I'll accept it. Anyways, so we got a pretty big death basket here. Not financially, but through magic gems and almost completely via astral gems. This is really interesting. We are not in a very great position to be a big astral nation or anything like that. But this is a lot of gems that could do something for us in the near future, or do something for us in the far future. So this is interesting. We'll see what we can do from it. We have also done some reanimation, revived another Mound King, did some fires from afar. This time, we hit 10 units and 3 were killed. Take that. We have captured 54 blood slaves in Tiny Willow. Nice. Getting that stockpile up. Very good. Because I skipped this, sorry. Getting that stockpile up is very good because the entire nation rejoices. Cold as ice has finally arrived. So our god has broken free from imprisonment. The god of Helheim, star of the sea, god of arcane mysteries, Lord of forgiving, the foundation has broken free. Awesome. Great. So that means we're going to have quite a few different interesting opportunities in front of us. But it's kind of going to depend on certain research breakpoints and some... We're going to have to see how certain things pan out. Okay? So, we've got a couple of battles that we can watch. We've got Helheim attacking Tirnanog in Glimmering Fields. Okay, so this is just a single Aria Seraph, and that is assuming very simply what it's going to do. Yep, it will summon a single air elemental, and that air elemental, the hope, right, is that the air elemental kills whatever PD is there before getting killed or before the Aria Seraph gets killed. This is a very low investment style of raiding. And I say low investment. It takes... You're going to have a bunch of Aria Seraphs, right? And you're going to have a bunch of air gems. It's a... Low investment is probably a bad term. It's got a low barrier of entry, right? So comparatively to like Vanjarls, right? Kitting out a Vanjarl, even just with a few pieces of gear, is going to take several mage turns. Getting the Vanjarl, they're kind of pricey. Getting them to the point, etc., right? And whereas an Aria Seraph, right? You're going to have a bunch of them. You're going to have air gems on hand. It's just, hey, go toss an air elemental at this province, see if it works. So Aria Seraph raiding has a low barrier of entry, we'll say, but it's not it's not as efficient over the course of the long term. Plenty of province defense can beat a single air elemental, and even in the scenarios where you normally would win against a singular air elemental, sometimes your area seraph gets sniped, right? So there's definitely situations where that is going to be really good rating, but it's not consistent long-term rating, right? It's got a maybe saying low barrier of entry, but high potential investment is a good way of saying it, because like Van Jarls, right? They're relatively safe. You got to do a lot to get rid of a Van Jarl, but you don't have to do much to get rid of an area seraph. So we witnessed that. Let's watch the one in Uric Balcor as well. This is a little more involved. This has some Spire warriors being led by an area seraphine. So I get some Sermon of Courage, and it's up against a very small amount of PD. Looks like Tirnanog's doing only 1 PD, at least in these locations. And then Sarmatia is attacking us, and actually what we're going to find out here is Sarmatia is attacking a bunch of different provinces. It's just more Tirnanog provinces than me, right? They're trying to do a little breakout. We're going to see how that goes. So we've got a battle in Ard, and this is just a single a warrior sorceress, and interestingly enough, she has lost an arm, so she does not have her lance. She only has her bite. And she only has 3 hit points left. My assumption is because she got hit with fires from afar before she moved out of the capital, which is really funny, right? However, she does have a Vine Shield, so she casts Personal Regeneration, Barkskin, Awaken Tattoos, Blessing, Enlarge. Yeah. Well, one, she healed up with the regeneration from that entire thing, so that didn't really matter too terribly much. She does only have a bite now, so that is something. But what she's up against is kind of whatever. It's really funny seeing these Phantasmal Warriors because of where I am in the Tetragrammaton game, because there's a battle in the Tetragrammaton game where, for whatever reason, my Mage Core decides that it's just a good idea to spam Phantasmal Warriors. So the fucking battlefield gets covered in Phantasmal Warriors in where I'm at on Tetragrammaton. So it's funny seeing Phantasmal Warriors right now. So we get a whole bunch of Phantasmal Warriors, but Vine Shields are really dope, and even though she has only 1 attack, she's got regeneration, she's got very high protection, very high defense. She's not gonna get touched by light infantry or Phantasmal Warriors, you know? Unfortunate. Unfortunado. So, they break, and job done. So the Warrior Sorceress wins in Ard, and then we have a battle in Menace, where this is a more conventional force of Oirapatas that comes out, and it too is against very little, so this is going to be a simple win for them. Get the Phantasmal Warriors going, I guess. Do we snipe one? Get lucky. Get that lucky shot from a Phantasmal Warrior. Seems unlikely. No, we do not. Then we have an unexpected event in Titan's Breath. Handful of magic gems have been found in an abandoned mine. We get +6 earth gems. Nice. Province income decrease in Osens. Ugh. Super unlucky. -10. Ugh. Sucks. All right, and then the entrance to the fortification in Gifa has been breached. I'm still, even now, kind of hemming and hawing about this one. I think I'm gonna change my mind. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that here in a second. We don't have a crazy amount to talk about this turn, so we'll use that as a talking point. And we have patrolled in Tiny Willow. Okay, so what are we doing? We're marching on Sarmatia. So Sarmatia has broken out of their chokehold, what they've been doing for a while, right? Hole up for a couple turns, break out. Hole up for a couple turns, break out. We are marching on Sarmatia. I kind of feel like it's now or never. If we can't just put Sarmatia down, we can't turn on Calum right now because Calum is just... If all of my focus is on Sarmatia, and I poke Calum's just going to wash over us. If I turn all of my attention to Calum, Sarmatia's just going to be like, okay, well, I'll take my shit back, and then they're going to, I would assume, target me aggressively for the rest of the game. Because I would be vindictive as fuck about that. Absolutely. So, we have to take out Sarmatia. It doesn't mean we have to, like, completely annihilate and Sarmatia has to be out of the game, but we need to break the back of Sarmatia's power. So we're going to try to do that by marching on their capital. We've got a couple things happening here. I do think one of the things that we're going to end up doing... we were just sneaking everyone away because he can hit Gifa, and I kind of suspect that he will hit Gifa, right? Kind of makes sense to me that he'd hit Gifa. But it's possible that he doesn't, so I think I will... I will storm the castle with Hearst the 29. If we lose one stack of Hell Heritings, it's kind of whatever, right? We just don't want to lose the whole stack of Hell Heritings. That would be really bad. So we're moving the rest of the stack over into High Peaks. We're moving the vast majority of our forces from Brightgate into Ard. Just in case, right, we have a bump. We could hold some of these Jarls here and do some research, because we can very easily hit the capital from there. But, there's the chance that he pulls something sneaky, and then if I'm only moving half of my forces, yada, 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 yada. So, we don't want to do that. In fact, no, we can't make it. Okay, that's fine. So we are pulling into Ard with, Bernard the Brave, a squadron of Jade Maidens, some mixed units, a bunch of Long Dead. 320 Long Dead, I think. A fair number of Hell Heritings, some Valkyries as well, more of the Jade Maidens, etc., and a whole shit ton of Herdmen. The Herdmen are potentially a liability because of foul vapors, but we'll see. We will see. So, we are set up to summon Storm Power and Thunderstrike like crazy, because I think that's probably going to be our best opportunity currently. We might adjust that before we get to Sarmatia, but I think that's probably the best we're going to get out of here. We've outfitted Gerskogel with a Dragon Scepter, so she has Flame Bolt, so she can just spam Flame Bolt. She's set to just cast spells. That way she will not engage in battle. So that'll be fine. We're casting another Fires from Afar on Sarmatia, and we'll probably cast another Fire from Afar on Sarmatia come the next turn. We are bringing in more Hell Heritings with Hearst 24. We're bringing in the Hunga Squad. They are also set to summon Storm Power and Thunderstrike. Thunderstrike does enough damage that even with their Bless, even with the shock blast that they took, it's very likely that a direct hit from a Thunderstrike would kill an Oirapata. So that's useful for us, and out and out it would kill an Inari or wipe out a square of Long Dead or something like that. So Thunderstrike is going to be pretty useful. I would like to have had air elementals. They would be pretty useful for this. It probably would have been a better idea for me to go for Conjuration 5 rather than Blood Magic, but we do have a pretty big leg up in Blood Magic at this point. So that's good. And we are also moving more Jarls into Brightgate. 2 Jarls are heading into Brightgate this turn, and we are recruiting a Van Jarl there. So the following turn, we're going to have 3 more Jarls that we can toss onto Sarmatia with the army. And that's potentially important because we might just load them up with gems so that we can summon lesser air elementals, right? Those are still useful. They'll do a decent job, right? They can still disrupt a backline while other stuff is going on. So maybe we bring a couple of them. But also, a real other scenario that's happening is we have gear, right? We do have some gear that we are open to utilizing, and we will have enough for 3 people next turn? Question mark? We might not, actually. Got a Storm Spool. We're gonna do Amulet of the Dead. I don't think we have... yeah, we don't have... So we'll need to hold someone here. Stop. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. We've got plenty of blood slaves. So let's do a Ring of the Warrior, right? So this would allow potentially, right, us to bring in 3 Jarls that have a little bit of gear that can do something like, Mist Form, Gift of Flight, attack rear, and cause havoc in the back. So that's definitely a possibility. We might not do that though, because we've seen repeatedly Sarmatia has a tendency to just be like, well, I'm just gonna put my people on guard commander. So I don't know if they're gonna be interested in that. It might just behoove us to stick with Thunderstrike spam and hope that we can overwhelm them. Anyways, that's pretty much that. What else are we doing? Continuing to blood hunt. We are continuing to site search in numerous locations. Continuing to forge owl quills and build a massive amount of heiresses. I considered this turn doing some... or starting to forge imp familiars, but I really don't like imp familiars. I'm not a big fan of them. They have very low research. The additional shadow imp very rarely comes into play because the vast majority of time you just use these on lab monkeys and they never see combat. So I guess in some scenarios this can be useful, but it's also tainted. It gets your people killed, but it gets your people killed for such a low return of investment. And it's not that this is expensive. This is incredibly cheap. This is super cheap, right? But it takes 10 turns just to get 30 research out of an imp familiar. You have to, for something like a Jarl. Now, granted, we've got Drain right now, but it would take a Van Jarl 3 turns of producing imps. I guess technically that's not true. The way the research stacks, it would only take them 2 turns because the first turn gets doubled on the second turn. Still, it's I don't like using them more often than. Anyways, so I thought about doing that, but I think I'm just going to save my blood slaves for higher blood magic, because we're getting close. We will not have blood 5 this turn, but we will have it next turn. Blood 5, we can actually do some things with now that we have our god, right? We could do Demon Knights. Demon Knights are not fantastic, but they're not bad, right? And they're really cheap. We can send lesser horrors at locations. That's pretty decent. We could use that to target armies that Helheim has, just to try to disrupt them. We can send hordes from hell at certain locations, which would actually be alright. Horde from hell is kind of interesting. It's not super effective, though. But we can also get succubi, right? And actually get into the assassin seduction game, which would not be bad. But really what we're looking for is as soon as we get up to level 6, Ice Devils, and then Arch Devils at level 7. So everything else is relatively normal, but so we're forging some an Amulet of the Dead, 2 Amulets of the Dead, actually, so that we can be more efficient with our reanimation. And we're doing more Storm Spools. We're actually switching over to Black Steel Helmets instead of Dwarven Hammers right now, because I'm actually starting to struggle on using all of my Dwarven Hammers every turn. Because most of my mages who I would be using Dwarven Hammers are in the field right now. And this is the big one. This is the one that I actually really struggled with a lot this turn on what I wanted to do with my god. I considered it's early enough in the game, and I think we're in a safe enough position that I actually considered sending my god out to just start site searching. And that might end up being the smarter choice in the long run. I don't honestly know. But what I decide, and I also considered just researching. He has 55 research, so that would actually boost me up quite a bit out of the total amount that I have. And considered doing some forging on particular things, considering some ritual casting, right? I considered moving him up to Brightgate to actually snipe with Seeking Arrows, right, with Loki. But I think what I'm going to try to do, we've been given an odd boon in the large amount of Astral Pearls that we have. And our god is Astral 4. So Astral 4 is high enough that we can climb easily, relatively easily, right? We do have the cross path for Crystal Gear, so we can forge a Crystal Coin, go up to Astral 5. We can get a Skull Cap, go up to Astral 6. We can use Astral 6 to make a Ring of Sorcery, go up to Astral 7. And Astral 7 gets us pretty far into a lot of things, honestly. So we have an interesting opportunity here to utilize a fair amount of Astral that we normally would not be able to. Because we normally wouldn't have a good way of going about it. So what we're basically doing here is I'm gonna cast a couple of arcane probings that target high yield locations. Grim Cleaver, Dead Forest, probably Tiny Willow. And if we get some good results, then we might continue, right? If we start suddenly finding a lot of astral locations, if it turns out a feast for us, right, then that could be a route into a lot of late game power for us, a lot of unsuspecting late game power for us. But of course, if it turns into famine, right, if we do like 2 or 3 turns of this and we get nothing, then we're probably just gonna be like, okay, well, we did that, move on to another thing. And this is probably not the best use of my god's time, but I think we're at a point where I can get away with it. That's probably a cheeky, incorrect statement, but it is what it is. All right, so that is mostly it for the turn. Gonna have big battles with Saramesha in the very near future. We are moving our forces over. We've got Memoria here, who I think is about to attack Calum in CERN. We've got a scout there. And I am actually going to move... I think I'm going to move right on to... No, I'm going to move adjacent to Calum. I'm trying to get eyes to the south because I think Memoria is attacking Calum. And I want to see how that stuff goes. We are not... I promise, Tirnanog, if you watch this at a later date, right? I am not, like, stabbing you in the back or anything like that. I have every intention of starting to raid Helheim. It's just where I am right now would be a terrible idea for me to pull the trigger, right? We need Calum's forces. We need Calum to be like, all right, sorry, or Helheim's not a threat, and disperse this force. Or we need to be able to consolidate and bring a force to bear against him, which maybe we'll be able to do shortly. But right now, if I were to start popping, he'd just fly this fucking force on my capital and bye. Fucking game, right? Like, so we've gotta adjust for that. So in the meantime, I'm moving a bunch of these raiders over into Old Marverni lands so that we can get ready for this whole scenario and handle it from there. By the way, Jade Sword 2 over here has been slowly but steadily recruiting Yetis, and Yetis are pretty interesting. We've made a great deal of use of them in our Tetragrammaton game. I don't think they're going to be nearly as useful in this game for us because we don't have the buff selection that we do in Tetragrammaton. So there's less of a chance of them, being super high protection, high regeneration creatures. But they are interesting muscle that we can potentially bring to bear. We'll see how it goes. I kind of anticipate that when things turn on with Calum, it'll be time to just abandon Titan's Breath Peaks. We'll see. Alright, that's going to be it for the turn. Thanks for watching. I will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.